Hello, we are live today with the VP here of Save the Second. Before we get into that, I'm going to go through and welcome some guys into the chat. So, I see some of you have been here for quite a while. We have Mike White here, Tim Allen, of course, as always. We have Andrew X, Mandatory Carry, hello. We have a boring sandwich. Well, that is very sad. I wonder what makes your sandwich boring. Roy R. Honey, I'm sorry, I'm not going to try to say your last name. Vala. Well, I guess I am going to try to say it. Let's see. Bob Messer-Cola. Montgomery Family. Geothermal. Michael Quintero is here. The Bug Killer. I am guessing that he kills bugs.
Sure, assessment.
All right. And let's see. Gun Websites is here as well. Anon. So lots of great people. Ozark Yeoman here. Robin Patty, hello. Hello. Caleb Calvin, Grim, Brian Damage. We've got Trekker VE with a very cool Pokemon icon there. JC Wesson, Rebecca Clark, Clover Tack as well. So we got lots of people in the chat today. And look at this, guys. I have this fancy setup with our names and my little logo on it.
Over here.
There you go. Yes, right there. Oh, perfect.
Got it. It's so cool. I love this. This is awesome. This is so high speed.
Fun fact, Ron we've actually been chatting for like half an hour, waiting for the time to start here.
It's been the best half hour of my day. It really has.
All right, so one final note before we get into the meat and potatoes today. I always forget to tell you guys about USCCA, so I'm going to do it first so I can't forget. So USCCA is an affiliate of the show. We have a link down in the description. If you click on it, if you get a membership through that link, it does help out the channel. And also along with it, you get all kinds of protection. You get classes, you get educational articles, you get videos, you get access to USCCA trained instructors, and you get help finding a lawyer, you get financial protection, all of these things in the event that you ever, God forbid, have to use your firearm in self-defense. They are an excellent company. They have 3 different tiers of memberships, and you get all kinds of goodies along with it. So again, you can click the link down in the description to have access to all of that, or super cool, you can text DOLL to 87222. Pretty sure that's the number. All right, so we have, like I said, we have Ron Carter with us here today from Save the Second. He is the VP of Save the Second. So Ron, can you tell us a little bit about your organization for anyone who isn't familiar?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, our nonprofit organization, Save the Second, is exceptionally young. We launched on June 17th, and that came out of a Facebook page that I started back in May called NRA Members for Accountability. Now, several weeks after the whole hullabaloo that happened at NRA annual meeting in Indianapolis at the end of April, there were several of us that just really wanted to do something, although we didn't know what to do. We wanted to fix the problems, and be involved in our NRA, but we didn't know how to do it. So, learning process, right? We started the Facebook page. We got in contact with, guys like Rob Pincus, Andy Lander, Steve Hoback, and I met Anthony Garcia, who is the president of Save the Second, and we realized very quickly that we would have to establish some sort of nonprofit entity in order to fund some of the objectives that we were hoping to. And of course, like, for example, our website, savethe2a.org, is just a product of that, really.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and it's a great website. It really is.
Oh man, it's so awesomely amateur. I love it. It's amazing.
Well, I have seen much, much worse, so I actually think it's pretty good. And that is linked in the description of the video as well for you guys if you want to check it out. So before we get more into the organization and how it started and why don't you give us a little bit about your background?
Okay, so I'm an Arkansas expatriate. I left the natural state. I love Arkansas. I left the natural state in 2003. I was in the Arkansas Army National Guard for a little while, and then I moved out to Colorado. I love Colorado. I spent some time in Texas, but I grew up hunting, fishing, doing lots of shooting and whatnot on the weekends, and of course the Army National Guard, with basic training and all the weapons quals and stuff. Man, that just fueled my passion for firearms. And when I got out to Colorado Springs, I did a little bit of hunting, but not a lot. In 2013, I decided after some of the craziness that was occurring that I really needed to carry a handgun. And so, like all my hobbies, I can't just dive into it. I have to just jump head first. And so shortly thereafter, I was working at an FFL, a local gun shop here in Colorado Springs, where I'm currently at. I then went and got some credentials for instructing. I love teaching firearms and whatnot. And I also found another passion. I absolutely love competition shooting, particularly IDPA. Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. Anytime that I'm behind a trigger, and everything's going right, buddy, I just got this stupid grin on my face and I'm having a great time.
I actually have a cousin that's a competitive shooter, and oddly enough, he does it out of California.
I've got a couple of buddies of mine that in California that do that as well. A good buddy of mine, Roden, does a lot of precision rifle competition stuff. Yeah, those guys are out there. They still exist.
Oh yeah, and he'll record it and he'll post videos on his Facebook, and it's hardcore. I have to give him mad props.
Okay, so that's something I'm gonna have to check out. Absolutely.
So what made you guys decide to come together and start this organization?
Well, that's kind of hard to say. We're all passionate about the Second Amendment. We are all staunch Second Amendment supporters. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, and it's the right of the people, not the right of the folks that like the NRA, that dislike the NRA, that are Republicans or Libertarians or Democrats or whoever, right? The NRA has been the largest and perhaps one of the longest running organizations that has supported the Second Amendment and fought for our rights and educated even. Of course, you mentioned USCCA. USCCA is doing a fantastic job of making instructors and educating people and training people. But if you're in the state of Colorado, for example, and you want a concealed handgun permit, the only organization that Colorado accepts to teach or train firearms in order to have a concealed handgun permit is the NRA. So you have to be an NRA instructor in the state of Colorado. And so that's where a lot of us kind of cut our teeth. We get into the NRA in some form or fashion like that. We take a basic pistol class or we decide we just want to support it for, defending our rights. And then we want to get involved and we want to see it better. And especially when stuff starts hitting the fan, some allegations of corruptions come out, we want that fixed. We want our NRA to be accountable. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's it. We want accountability, and we're going to do that.
Yes, it's interesting that you bring up the whole thing about needing to have an NRA instructor course. It's the same in Massachusetts, actually. That's a requirement. And so with everything that's been going on with NRA, all the lawsuits, all the allegations, all the leaks, all the progressive plots, we'll say, that have been
I love those air quotes.
That's definitely been something to think about. Like, okay, if the NRA goes down, well, what happens in all of these states where that is a requirement of getting your license? So, I guess that would be a really good place to start, is for anyone who hasn't seen my video on the NRA and what's going on, or who hasn't been keeping up with the hard to find news articles on this situation. Would you like to give a little background of what's been going on?
Oh my gosh, yes. And your video on that on July 23rd was absolutely fantastic. Now, granted, it's long, and a lot of folks that want to, like a 30-second video, they're going to be, a little overwhelmed because there's so much. And you were just skimming the surface.
Oh, I know. There was so much. There was whole scenes that I had in there, and I was like, I don't have time for this. No one's going to watch like a 20, 25, 30-minute video. So I did
Oh,
my best.
I know. And so folks, please go watch Liberty Doll's video on that. That was an excellent summarization on what's going on in the NRA. Seriously, since then, we've seen, for example, 4 NRA board of directors resign.
Mm-hmm.
Three of those previously called for an independent audit, and they were shut down. You can read their resignation letter on our website. We've got it in the blog section. And shortly thereafter, I believe, what was it, 2 or 3 days ago now, the beginning of the week, Julie Golub resigned from the NRA board of
Yeah,
directors.
and I read her resignation letter, and I found it really interesting that she wrote. I thought it was strange because she had this strange line in there. I wrote it down, where basically she said that she didn't really give so much a reason. She just said it was the right thing for her family, and she said that what she wanted to achieve was directly in line with the goals of the organization. And it was worded strangely, and I was like, well, that's kind of a weird thing to put in a resignation letter.
Yeah, well, and I mean, if you look at it from the aspect of the NRA being a training organization, training and education, well, yeah, she's still wanting to do that, and I think that's what she's kind of hinting at. She did Love at First Shot, that was on NRA TV. NRA TV is no longer around, but
Right.
that was one of the few programs on NRA TV that I thought was awesome. Julie Golub, especially on like YouTube and whatnot, and her competition stuff, I've always enjoyed her. She did a video with 22 Plinkster a couple years back. It was just so fun.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if I were a NRA board of director right now, I would be probably considering the same, especially after we found out just before she resigned that 90 current and former board of directors were served subpoenas by the New York Attorney General.
Really? 90?
90, no kidding. And there's only 76 board of directors. In fact,
I was going to say that's more than are actually on the board.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a big deal.
Wow. So they're digging out past people then too.
Absolutely. And today we had information come out from, I believe it was laws.com, that the NRA had just filed a new lawsuit. They've got tons. They filed a lawsuit with the New York Attorney General because Oliver North, the prior president who had stepped down from the president of the NRA, he's still on the board, he was scheduled to give a deposition today to the New York Attorney General. 900 pages deposition, right? 900 pages.
Wow.
And so the NRA's, through Brewer and Associates, their counselors, their representation, they filed the lawsuit to prevent that particular deposition without their being in there because of they want to oversee any privileged information that he might share. And oh my gosh, that's just one more thing that you would probably not hear in some of the medias and whatnot of the ongoing drama in the NRA.
Right. Right. So at this point, there are 6 or 7 lawsuits, right? There's the lawsuit, the NRA against New York, right? There's the NRA against Lockton, who was one of the insurance companies that had the carry guard, right? There's NRA against Oliver North. There's Oliver North counterclaim against the NRA. There's the NRA against Ackerman McQueen #1. There's the NRA against Ackerman McQueen #2. And then now we have this Delaquila, I don't know how to say it, lawsuit, class action lawsuit that was just filed August 6th. And for those of you not familiar, the basics of it is that this guy pledged to give 75% of his estate to the NRA. And over the last 4 or so years, he's already given $100,000. And now he's saying, well, none of that money was actually being used for NRA purposes. It was being used for other things. I imagine that would be some of the things I talked about in the video about, Wayne spending, $250,000 on clothing from a Beverly Hills men's shop, or another $250,000 on travel to the Bahamas or Budapest and his limo services and all of that. So, you can't deny that the money wasn't going where it was supposed to be going.
Oh my gosh, you're absolutely right. And, to take that further, we found out through an article that was released, I believe it was this morning, from the Daily Beast, that tens of thousands of dollars were spent by Wayne LaPierre's wife from the donor funds to have her hair done. I can't get you. They had apparently in this article that she particularly likes Nashville hairstylists, and
Mm-hmm.
so she was paying them to fly out to luxury places to have her hair done. And
Wow.
yeah, I mean it's just gross
Well, I mean,
mismanagement of the funds.
and I mean the thing is, I don't know how you could get away with, there's not even an excuse that you could find for that, because let me tell you what, I have this, YouTube thing here, and when I go to file my taxes, I'm like, oh, well, I got my hair done to be able to go to this specific event, or, whatever, and I can't even put that on my taxes. How is she going to say that that's related to the NRA and NRA business? There's no way.
Absolutely not. And it's so frustrating to me because, of course, you look at this allegation. I mean, who knows, exactly what if it's true or not. We do know, of course, that the documents that, showed that Wayne LaPierre spent $274,965.03 on suits.
Right.
We do know that's factual. In fact, that's in the litigation or the civil lawsuit between NRA versus Ackerman McQueen right now.
Right.
I mean, it's
then
just, come on. Yeah.
there was how much money was it altogether? It was like 24, so it was like $2 million a month about, right, on Bill Brewer and his legal services, though there's nothing in any of the invoices saying what any of those services actually were and what he was doing for all that money.
Yeah, Emily Cummins, who was a previous employee at the NRA, she was essentially the whistleblower, at least from what I can read. If you go and read John Richardson's blog, Only Guns and Money, No Lawyers, he gives a kind of more information on her. But she was showing that, hey, this isn't quite right. Everybody wants to talk about Ackerman McQueen and them being funded, but heck, Oliver North, had tried to form a crisis committee that also addressed Bill Brewer, getting $100,000 a day in these services, which of course we assume that Emily Cummins had been something of a whistleblower on. But if Brewer, Counselors and Associates are the current representative, legal representation for the NRA, and now we have so many additional lawsuits that are on the books, how many more thousands of dollars a day are they being paid for their services? And it's just mind-boggling.
That's a good point.
And guess what?
Good point.
Guess what? Those are our donations. Those are our member dues and charitable donations to our NRA. They're being used to being wasted away, really.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and there's so many bad actors in this that it's hard to really figure out who is the actual bad guy, right? That needs to be ousted to get rid of this problem. So I guess actually that leads us into my next question is your organization has 5 goals. And so what are those goals and how are you hoping to achieve them?
Absolutely. So, and let me give you a little bit more. We could probably spend hours, at least 3 hours, just discussing some of the problems and evidence of malfeasance.
I have as much time as you do.
Oh, girl. I'm not sure. I mean, I've got some coffee right here, but I'm going to need a lot more for that. Oh, man. Now, we could talk about the problems all day long, but nobody really has a solution, right? And so that's one of the things that, Save the Second hopes to accomplish. We sat down and we said, okay, let's fire Wayne LaPierre. And then we thought, think about it. I mean, this is initially, of course, we just wanted to go with what everybody else is saying. There's so many people that say that Wayne LaPierre should step down. Tom Grisham from Gun Talk Radio said he should step down. Heck, there's several hundred that have, called for Wayne LaPierre's resignation. But guess what?
I just want to say real quick, this one caught my eye, and I'm going to... World domination, number 1. Thank you, the fish. Thank you for that laugh.
Oh, my gosh. What are we going to do today, Pinky? We're going to take over the world. No, so in trying to solve these problems, it can't be any one singular person. For example, and I wrote about that today. I released an article today on our blog called On Wayne LaPierre and His Removal. In our goals, if you look at the website and you see our 5 goals, there's not a single mention of Wayne LaPierre anywhere. Right. So when we first, sat down and we're thinking Wayne LaPierre needs to go, sure, he does. But he's not the solution to the problems. He is a product of his environment. He's probably, of course, tried to tailor that environment to his liking, of course. And you can go back to the 90s even and see how he achieved power and maintained power, especially through, say, Marion Hammer, Jim Porter, and others. Other board of directors that have been past presidents, and ensured his place as the CEO / vice president of the National Rifle Association. So, first of all, if you want to control that seat, the CEO / vice president, it's the board of directors that do that. Mm-hmm. And so 4 really of our 5 goals revolve around the board of directors. The first is having a smaller board. 76 board members is absolutely absurd. There should never be that many.
It is.
Yeah, I think the average nonprofit has 8. Okay, so and of course the NRA is a nonprofit organization. So we hope to have a compromise, right? I mean, we don't want necessarily to just have 76 shrunk down to 8. Or say, okay, maybe 31. Let's go half or a little less. So that's our first goal, having a smaller board. The second is term limits. There are several of those board members who have been on the board for over 20 years. And so you could probably point to their usefulness having expired. Now, of course, I'll let the reader, make that determination. But I think we can all, rightfully say that there's no way that somebody should spend 30, 40 years on the board of directors, and that's somehow okay. So right. Term limits, number 2. Director attendance, number 3. That's actually the one that we have a bylaw amendment petition that we've already concluded and are going to be distributing to the next board meeting, the NRA board directors meeting in Anchorage. We had more than double the amount of petitions signed for this director attendance policy. We just want the directors to show up. Marion Hammer, for all that I know, has only been to 1 directors meeting in the past 8 years.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's something we want them to show up. We want them to do their due diligence and be a director, direct the NRA. Fourth, of course, member engagement. Member engagement's a really difficult one because, there's only 6% of voting eligible NRA members that voted in the previous board of directors election.
That's it, huh?
Yeah, that's sad, right? So we have to find some ways to make members get involved, to make informed votes, and then of course hold their leaders accountable. One of the things that I did with that early on was list all the contact information that I could find, through a collaborative effort with some friends, of all the 76 board of directors. You can find that on our site. You can click the take action and contact NRA board of directors. And then of course our 5th goal is an exclusive 2A focus. So the NRA's got to get back to that, and gun safety, education and training, recreation, competition, hunting. They can't be talking about immigration,
Right. Absolutely. And this whole time I've been trying to figure out how to share the screen here of so everyone bear with me for a second while that didn't work. Is that working? Is that showing up? It doesn't look like it.
It looks kind of black to me, but black's a cool color, right? Johnny Cash.
All right. Well, I guess it's not working. All right. Well, I tried. So.
Technology.
Oh goodness! And now we have this weird thing here. All right, we'll go back. I tried. I was trying to pull up. I had the list of the goals, and it was in the nice little chart or whatever, and I was gonna keep it up and fix my light at the same time, and that didn't work. But
and of course these goals, by the way, they're not just simplistic. If you click to learn more, we go into detail on that, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing even about like the 2A focus, like you said, and I will just, I guess, fix my light while I'm talking here, is, the like instructors and things like that. I actually had a lot of people commenting on, this is falling over, commenting on my video, talking about like how they're an NRA instructor and that they felt that the instructor program hasn't been getting enough attention, and it's been going really downhill, and they've been making cuts. And that was the whole reason that they had joined the NRA, was to be an instructor and get that education and that knowledge and that training out to people. And they made it sound like the NRA has been cutting the instructor program left and right. So I feel like you have something to say about that.
Oh my goodness, I've got loads to say about that. So for those of you that cannot see, this was an NRA carry guard hat. I mean, I had to use it for target practice. I mean,
No, of course. I mean,
yeah.
can't help that.
Oh, buddy. No, that started going downhill about a couple years ago when they were trying to introduce carry guard, but they were also trying to introduce what they called blended learning. So, yeah, I'll try to summarize it real fast. One of the basic things that instructors are taught is the uh, the basic instructor portion, the bit portion, where you have to engage your students. You have to tell them, show them, and ask them to perform the task.
Right.
If you're doing computer-based training, you're removing that equation completely. You don't have an instructor that's hands-on and doing something. Now, what it really amounted to was the NRA was trying to make more revenue and cutting instructors, their credentialed instructors, out of the picture entirely. Well, I shouldn't say entirely, but I mean, let's face it, if somebody's trying to get education and they just leave it to a YouTube video, well, that's not really giving them education. And so it really did a disservice. And of course, Carry Guard came out and it was just the complete dumpster fire that everyone, says it is. And of course, there's still ongoing litigation, with that, or not litigation, but the civil lawsuit. Oh my gosh, it's just the NRA training department used to be awesome. It used to be amazing. And it's just been wasted away, cut and cut and cut and cut. Andy Lander, that's on our Save the Second board of directors. He used to make training counselors. That's what he did. He used to get people down to Waples Mill Road, in Virginia, and make people train instructors. And good God, Andy Lander is one of the coolest instructors that I've ever had the privilege of talking with. I still haven't got to take a class with him yet. I'm trying to take a class with him, but he influenced my training counselors so much so that I'm saying like phrases and whatnot that Andy Lander coined, and that's all been kind of stripped away and eroded. And so, I would really hope that the NRA, if nothing else, returns to a high level of focus on education. And I'll take it a step further. Imagine if my generation had NRA instructors out the wazoo educating my generation on basic firearm safety, the joys of competition shooting or hunting or all that good stuff. You might not see so much blind fear of firearms today if that had been the case.
Absolutely. And as far as them wanting to do the online learning, what do I need the NRA for that? I can go and in fact, a lot of my early firearms education of just learning was from YouTube. I was watching, Iraq Veteran, I was watching Hickok, I was watching 22 Plinkster, all of these, and it's okay, well, I can already get that from YouTube. What do I need the NRA for if that's all that I'm getting from the NRA as well?
Right, absolutely. And to be fair, you can learn a lot from YouTube, tons, ridiculous amounts.
Mm-hmm.
But it is so much more helpful to have somebody that knows the ins and outs of the task that you're trying to perform, and is able to correct certain little bitty nuances to make you such a better shooter, or whatever, underwater BB stacker. It doesn't matter if you have those eyes on that can help you. That's way more valuable than just perusing through YouTube and spending 30 seconds on a guy that shoots really fast.
Right. Exactly. So how do you guys plan to achieve some of these goals?
Frankly, your help. And I say you. I guess you've let your NRA membership lapse, correct?
I have. It was a while ago, and it was because I didn't like Wayne LaPierre.
Yep. I can't say that I blame you at all.
Flat out, I did not like. I didn't like what he was doing, and I didn't like some of the moves the NRA was making, and so I let it lapse.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a common sentiment. It really is. There's so many people that are so disenfranchised that they're seeking out other organizations. Now, if you are a member of the NRA, you've got power in your NRA. You do. As a member, you have a say in that organization. You have a say through several different means. Of course, if you're a voting eligible member, lifetime members or annual members that have 5 or more consecutive years of membership, they can vote for 25 directors on a ballot starting in November each year. That helps tremendously, making informed votes. A great example of an uninformed vote. There's an NRA board member that's I'm not sure if he's still an NBA basketball player or if he's retired. Carl Malone.
Okay.
Carl Malone is on the NRA board of directors, and he has never shown up to a board meeting, nor has he been sworn in.
Really?
Yet he was reelected this past year. So.
Well, that's interesting.
Oh, buddy. So making those.
How does that work?
Oh man, ain't that the truth? Yeah, I mean there's several of those that just they're somewhat of empty suits. They're celebrities in some form or fashion, and they're not really contributing to directing the NRA in which they should. So I mean that's huge. That's what we need. We need to have good directors on the board doing good work, making sure the NRA is accountable. That's one way that you can do it. Obviously, we have petitions going on to try to reform the bylaws because, of course, the bylaws are how the NRA board conducts themselves.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's another thing. If you're a voting eligible member, you can sign our petitions. We don't have another petition ready for signatures yet. We will pretty soon, especially after the September NRA directors meeting in Anchorage, Alaska.
Yeah, I saw that. Like, they literally couldn't put it farther away.
Oh, I know. I'm going up there, by the way.
You are?
I'm going to be there. Absolutely.
Wow.
Right. Yeah, buddy. But I mean, obviously NRA members can't just do that. They can't just go to Alaska to, attend a board meeting. One of the things that they can do, even if you're just an annual member, you can attend the members meeting at each NRA annual meeting. The next one is going to be in Nashville in April. And that is going to be wild.
Well, I was going to say, you said it with a very mischievous look on your face, and I'm like, okay, there's something going on there.
Yeah. Note the mischievousness. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the members meeting. The members meeting. This past members meeting, we had a bunch of past presidents and directors that decided that they would debate instead of the members. Yeah, that did not sit well with me whatsoever.
And when was that?
That
last
was
one?
April 27th, I believe. April 27th.
So before a lot of this even came out.
Oh, absolutely. There's stuff coming out all the time.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Now, granted,
really interesting.
I expect. Well, obviously,
can you sneak a little hidden camera in there and stream it to all of us?
Oh my goodness. Well, you can go back and there was a couple of folks that recorded snippets from the past meeting, and you can go find that online. You type in NRA annual meeting, members meeting, and you can see, for example, Rob Pincus, who's also on our Save the Second board of directors. He debated Marion Hammer, who was a past president, and oh my gosh, yeah, she has been what a classy broad, and I'm using that in quotations as best I can. Yeah, you should go watch that. You should really just see what our directors were doing at the members meeting. That ought to be telling, and it also should be telling that this next members meeting is going to be even more interesting.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm willing to bet there's going to be a lot of angry people.
And there have been, the year before last, Tim from Military Arms Channel, Chad and Eric with Iraq Veteran 8888, they were protesting inside. They were wearing shirts "Not Real Activist," instead of NRA. And so there's already been these demonstrations, but it's continuing. It's coming to a head so quickly that I'm encouraged to see that there are a lot of people that share their want for the corruption in the NRA to end.
Right.
Now, of course, how we get that done is a different story, and that's exactly what we're working towards. We don't want to just harp on the problem. We want to be the solution or a part of the solution.
Well, I mean, and we've got, you guys with your petitions, and then there's another petition, I don't think it's associated with you guys, of people promising to withhold their donations basically until Wayne LaPierre is gone. And I mean, last time I looked at it, it was in like the hundreds of millions. I don't even know what it's up to now.
Oh, absolutely. I mean that's something that should be shocking for any other nonprofit or corporation. If you're having a massive amount of people stop giving you money, usually people bend over backwards. Coming to my mind is United Airlines a couple
Mm-hmm.
years ago when they had the doctor dragged off the airplane. I mean, I guess it wasn't really them, it was the security there. But man, they bent over backwards. They gave him, they settled with him out of court. They revised all of their policies and procedures on the removal of passengers, and so they learned from it. They corrected it. They did
Right.
something. The NRA is not doing anything, and that's scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's at this point they're getting it from all sides, and yet it's amazing that LaPierre is still, holding tight onto it. And it's interesting that you say that about, well, any other corporation would be bending over backwards, because as we talked about before we went live, there was that article written by, oh, I wrote it down and now I don't see it. Tom King of the New York Rifle and Pistol Association, and his take on the whole thing was basically like, oh, well, you should ignore it because any other corporation goes through this. Well, number one, is the NRA really a corporation? It's supposed to be a nonprofit. And number two, just because everyone else does it doesn't mean that it's right. And he went on about how, like, oh, well, every other corporation does this, and so it's okay. And the only reason that it's being made into a big deal is because it's being exaggerated as part of a progressive plot to destroy the NRA.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, Tom King had been on our Facebook page a while back and called us Bloomberg and all this stuff. No kidding. On our Facebook page, we had to kind of educate him on that a little bit. He didn't take too happily to that. But, if I'm Bloomberg, why the heck do I have a Glock 19 Gen 4 sitting, right on my desk right here? Because I got to do some dry fire practice, getting ready for my IDPA match. Yeah, that's Bloomberg, right? Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, I noticed that in the FAQs of your website, the first two were, do you hate the NRA and are you funded by Bloomberg? And I laughed because ever since I made that video about what's going on with the NRA, and I didn't even call for the NRA to be dismantled. I just said, hey, this is what's going on. If you choose not to support it, there's these other organizations. And, I've been getting all these comments about how I hate the NRA and I'm against the Constitution now and I must be funded by Bloomberg. And honestly, if I was funded by all the people that accuse me of being, or by all the people that I'm accused of being funded by, I would not be having to have a Patreon to get a new laptop to do this live stream.
Oh, man. That burns me up. And to go along with that, earlier in this week, Marianne Hammer, prior president of the NRA and board of director, Joel Friedman, and Willis Lee, they're all directors. Willis Lee's the second vice president. They all told us that we're trying to destroy the NRA. That Save the Second is. It's absolute. No, we are so pro NRA. I want the NRA to be amazing. I want it to be strong. I want it to be relevant. I want it to be effective. But it's not going to happen unless it's accountable.
Yep.
And so demanding accountability is not demanding the NRA to be destroyed. And no, absolutely not. I don't want the NRA to be destroyed. Now, guess what? They've made their bed and they may have to sleep in it. The New York Attorney General could easily, after the subpoenas are gone through their investigation and whatnot, they could easily indict all of those board members or all the executives and dissolve the NRA. They could. They absolutely could. And that is the real point in the road, or the point that we've come to as a result of this failed leadership. And we need the NRA. I don't know any other Second Amendment organization that has as many lobbyists as the NRA does. I don't.
Right.
I think Firearms Policy Coalition has like 10 or so, but most of those are lobbying in states like California. I have no clue how many Gun Owners of America has. Second Amendment Foundation, I really don't know. I do know that the NRA has a lot. And unfortunately, Chris Cox, which was the head of the NRA's Institute for Legislative Action.
Yep, the guy that sends all the emails.
Right. So he was suspended. And by their bylaws, they couldn't just outright fire him. They had to suspend him. And then
that's why. Okay.
And so he didn't want to go through the rigor of their processes. So he just up and resigned, and he formed his own company now that's in Washington D.C. I don't think it's
Oh.
Second Amendment related at all, but I think it's like Watch Your Six or something like that,
Mhm.
which is kind of telling, or at least something six that relates to watching your back. That's a little odd. But
It is.
just shortly thereafter, Jennifer Baker, who was I believe she was the head of public affairs, she was fired because she, wasn't an officer. And a friend of mine,
Right. I remember reading that as well.
yeah, a friend of mine told me that she was escorted from the building by security crying. Yeah, no freaking
Wow.
kidding. That's just
Okay.
that burns me up, man, because she's done so much. She really has. And of course, since then, and in the absence of Ackerman McQueen's doing media for the NRA, Wayne LaPierre has now consolidated all of their media and made media within the NRA that reports directly to him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. So he's basically got his own little dictatorship like government over there.
Well, I mean, if you look at it in the way that he was spending money, through Ackerman McQueen
Mhm.
and whatnot, I mean, it looks like a dictatorship. It really
It
does.
does. It does. I mean, and at this point he's holding on so tightly, and for what? There's so few people that want him there. I mean, is it the paycheck? Someone in the chat way back up, I saw them say, well, how much does it pay to be on the board of directors? And I mean, that question, they are a nonprofit. Their tax documents and how much they pay everyone should be out there. But, as we were saying earlier, Wayne LaPierre was getting himself, what was it, $1.4 million every year?
In 2017, it was 1.4 million.
Okay.
Previously, it had been higher. I think in 2013 or 2012, it had reached as high as like 5 million, which is, yeah, that's absurd, right?
Right.
Now, the board of directors are not paid; they are volunteer. Okay. Now they do have travel reimbursements and lodging reimbursements.
Mhm.
One of the problems, though, of course, was that there were several directors who were also employed by Ackerman McQueen.
Right.
All right, so
and Oliver North had a $1 million contract with them as well, right?
Absolutely. Now, of course, Oliver North is also the guy that tried to form a crisis committee and address all of these issues. But we see through all the litigation or the lawsuits that it's to no avail. Right?
Right.
Now I will say that I found out John Fraser, the secretary of the NRA, had asked Oliver North to resign, and Oliver North said no. and I have that saved somewhere. It was in one of the filings for the lawsuits. So Oliver North is still on the board of directors, and I'll be curious to see if he shows up in Anchorage.
Mhm.
And even more curious to see if that deposition that he's supposed to give to the New York Attorney General, happens before then. But yeah.
Well, I do have to say, Rebecca Clark in the chat here has an excellent solution. We just have to tell everyone that LaPierre has dirt on the Clintons.
Oh. Oh. Now, let me back up for a second. I don't want to just throw LaPierre under the bus. I mean,
right.
Granted, I do not want him to be the CEO/vice president personally.
No, he does a piss poor job. Is just what it is.
He has failed to have any accountability for his actions.
Mm-hmm.
And now, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater because I mean he had done some great stuff. Okay, now off the top of my head, I can think of just a few interviews, a few videos that he's done that were stellar. That really shined the fact that the good guy with the gun is needed and so on.
And if he had done a bad job from the beginning all of the time, he wouldn't be in the position where he is.
Absolutely, and it's kind of hypocritical. I mean, if you think about it, he had said so many times, it's only a good guy with the gun that stops the bad guy with the gun. And if you look at the hypocrisy that's come out recently, I mean, you could rephrase that, it's only the good guy with the French mansion in Dallas, that stops a bad guy with the gun. I mean, it's so hypocritical,
It is. So for those of you that don't know what we're referencing with the mansion, I just saw this. This is another new news item that came out. So Wayne tried to get the NRA to purchase him a $6 million mansion in Texas, and he said that it was for security purposes, while meanwhile turning down a high-rise condo in Dallas that had all these security features. But you see, this mansion, this $6 million mansion, this 10,000 square foot estate, was on a golf course that he wanted to be a part of.
So,
and yeah,
there was a little bit more.
In the end, it didn't go through, but there was a wire to the NRA, to Ackerman McQueen, surrounding it for, I think it was like $70,000 or $80,000, and then the deal didn't go through. But interesting.
Yeah, $70,000. You're absolutely right. There was more that came out about that. The NRA responded and said, "Well, it was just Ackerman McQueen. Ackerman McQueen, was trying to get all this done, and Angus McQueen who was at the head of Ackerman McQueen. He passed away last month. So I mean that's kind of sad, but still, the check, it was a check, was written not by Ackerman McQueen, but by what would have been a wholly owned LLC that was created for Wayne LaPierre. So the NRA had come out and said, "Oh, it's just Ackerman McQueen, just Ackerman McQueen," and you look at that check and it doesn't have Ackerman McQueen on it. No,
it does not. Oh boy.
Yeah, so the NRA is playing this blame game where they're just trying to throw blame at everybody. Ackerman McQueen, and Oliver North and Chris Cox and Bloomberg and Soros and every town for gun safety and blah, blah, blah. They're not taking responsibility.
Right. And I mean, theoretically, even if it was Ackerman McQueen, right? So the allegation is that Ackerman McQueen was doing all these crazy things and spending all this money and charging them for all these things, not giving them the business documents, not giving them access to the Oliver North contract. Even if that were the case, the people at the NRA let that happen. So even if it were 100% Ackerman McQueen, it's still your responsibility to, I don't know, look at your contracts, make sound financial and business decisions, to not allow some outside company to run your business. And of course, that's not what happened, because as we know, a lot of the people at Ackerman McQueen were like friends and relatives of the NRA, and they were hiring family members and friends, and all this crazy nepotism was going on. But I mean, even if they wanted to play that game, there's still some fault there.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody forced Wayne LaPierre to swipe his American Express Ackerman McQueen credit card to purchase those suits. Nobody forced him to go to Budapest on a private jet, which is probably like a
fundraising. Remember, it was for fundraising.
Yeah, and obviously we need Second Amendment rights in the Bahamas, right? I mean,
right. I mean, even just the fact that he had to put this excuse and this veneer on it says to me that he knew what he was doing.
Absolutely, and granted, I've heard some apologists, try to come out and say, "Oh, well, he was on vacation and a tragedy happened, and so he had to have a private jet." I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure that I've been to Nassau several times flying, and there's scheduled flights that will work just fine, and they're not even $2,000 or $3,000 for a one-way ticket. In this case, we're talking like $30,000 plus. I can go buy my own airplane for $30,000. No kidding. And for the amount of money that it spent, during what we saw, dude, I could probably purchase a Cessna 310 multi-engine that gets up to 29,000 feet. But I could live at large, ridiculously large. And so these are luxuries that Wayne LaPierre indulged in. Nobody forced him to, but he was definitely indulging in those luxuries that we really can't even comprehend.
Right. Absolutely. And, I have to say, it was, when you were saying earlier about, the NRA has to be two-way focused, they can't be talking about immigration or all of these other things, it sort of like clicked something in my mind where I remembered a year or two now ago, maybe, I had been approached by someone who said, "Hey, we want you to do a little TV show for us, and it will be affiliated with NRA TV." And I was like, wow, that sounds awesome. Wow. And I was like all excited, and I was all on board with it. And it would have been, I would have had to do, basically I would have been making some videos specifically for them and giving it to them. And it sounded really cool, except they weren't going to pay me, which was, number one, quite curious, especially if it was affiliated with NRA TV. Number two, I get the contract, right? And I don't know anything about these contracts, so I called a bunch of lawyers around the Boston area that knew about contract law, and one of them, bless her heart, this big shot lawyer, actually was like, I'll look at it over the phone with you for free, because it was only like 2 or 3 pages long, and she was so kind to do that. And she looked through it, and there was a clause in there that basically said that they would sort of then like own my likeness and my name and my brand and all of these things. And what she literally said to me was, you don't want that because you don't know if they'll take your image and start putting it on immigration or something else that you don't want it on. And at the time I was like, well, why would the NRA be talking about immigration?
And that was the NRA TV by Ackerman McQueen, and they had just the reins.
Right. And it was like, wow, if I had gone through with it, I would be stuck in the middle of this, and I wouldn't be having my show because NRA TV is gone, and I would have my face stuck on something with immigration, probably, and things that, it's just crazy how all of this opened up. And at the time I was like, I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah, man. And talking about other Ackerman McQueen employees, former employees, Collion Noir is one that I used to love back in the day.
Is that how you say his name?
Collion Noir? Yeah, man. Collion Noir.
I never knew. I was like, is it Collion?
Dude, I got to meet him at the NRA annual meeting, and we're the same height. And I'm like, no, it's amazing. I'm a short guy, right? I'm really short. So like, I'm usually like John Hickok, I'm like looking up here, like, how's the weather, and so like I saw Collion, I'm like, oh no. He did a video just after one of the latest, massacres, the mass killers came out. And he did a video that was talking about the Second Amendment and how it is for everyone. It is for the people. And I think one of the terms that he used in it was like, I don't care if you're like pina colada sexual or, whatever it is. It was old school Collion Noir. It was such a breath of fresh air because while he was with Ackerman McQueen, he would have never, ever made a video like that.
I felt like his videos got a lot more like stiff and somber.
Yeah, exactly. And granted, I like him. I think he's an excellent speaker. I think he loves the Second Amendment a lot.
People have been saying I should try to get him on the show, and I'm like, I don't think I'm big enough to get him to come on yet, but maybe someday.
Yeah, no, he's a really cool guy. He was on the Hank Strange podcast a little while ago, and it was really interesting. Yeah, so he.
Dude, okay. I've been on Hank Strange.
Yeah, exactly right.
So like maybe maybe I'll send him an email.
Yeah, you should, man.
In the event that he's watching this somehow, Collion, I'd love to have you on the show.
Collion, I love shaking your hand. It was cool. Oh man. So earlier you mentioned what people can do.
Yeah.
If you wanted to do something right now, let's say that you're watching this and you're like, hey, right now I want to get involved. Well, we have a campaign that's been going on called 76 and 76 or hashtag 76 and 76. The idea was that we have 76 NRA board of directors, and that's a lot, right? So like contacting each one is ridiculously difficult with that many. And so with the 76 and 76 program, we're digesting it down to a singular director a day between the time we started and the next directors meeting in Anchorage, right? So if you wanted to get on board right now and contacting your NRA directors, you can go to our website. You can click the contact your directors, NRA directors, and there's a few that we don't have information for that we have been unable to get. There were a few that had emails that were just junk emails that I don't know, they may have had AOL back in the 90s and it went down. Strangely enough, Marion Hammer still uses an AOL.com email address.
That even exists? I didn't know that would exist anymore.
Yeah. Oh, and there's several directors, of course, that have social media accounts on Facebook and whatnot that you can go and converse with, and sometimes they speak, sometimes they don't.
There was actually a couple that had reached out to me after my video, and were like, oh, yeah, the stuff at the NRA is crazy, and I had asked them if they'd be willing to come on, and they never answered. Womp womp.
Well, and one of the problems, too, is if they've been served subpoenas or if they have non-disclosure agreements, they can't talk about a lot.
That's true. I hadn't really thought of that, but that makes sense.
Yeah, Linda Walker, NRA Board of Directors, I writ her a handwritten letter and sent it snail mail to her. And you can do that, by the way. You can send directors snail mail, and it's supposed to go directly to them. Like, they can't not see it. They can conveniently have your email go to spam or something. But Linda Walker sent me such a sweethearted reply that she was working as hard as she could to
Wow.
make the NRA better and whatnot. And I mean, there's several directors that have responded to me. Julie Golub had responded to me to a couple of letters, and then there's some others that either just don't reply at all or merely say I'm in receipt of your letter and leave it at that. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of discouraging. But on the other hand, NRA members have the power, and their NRA board of directors are elected, so they serve as something as a representation. You contacting your directors is ridiculously important and crucial right now.
Right. I mean, and you're right. I mean, there is contact information out there for all of them. Though 76 was really insane. At first I remember I was like looking through the list, and I hadn't seen the number, but I was looking at a list, and I was like, oh, okay, it looks like there's one per state. I guess that makes sense. And then I'm like, wait, nope. There's a lot more than that. And it's like, my goodness. Like, if there's that many of you, how do you even have meetings? How do you get anything done?
Well, and that's a funny thing you mentioned that too, because the NRA has 37 standing committees. Okay, so committees kind of get stuff done. You've got the
37.
committee. Yeah, there's an audit committee, by the way. That ought to be kind of interesting.
I don't think they've been doing their job.
Oh, they got promoted. Yeah, no, I'm serious. So first Vice President Charles Cotton was the chairman of the audit committee.
Okay.
That's convenient. Carolyn Meadows was on that committee, the now NRA president. Oh, and by the way,
she's the really angry one, right?
Oh, buddy, yeah, she's the new NRA president in lieu of or after seceding Oliver North. And I will give a challenge to all of your viewers. Mm-hmm. If any of you can find a picture of NRA President Carolyn Meadows with a gun in her hands or in the frame of the picture, I will buy you a Coke, because I haven't found a single one.
Huh.
That ought to tell you something. Yeah, mm-hmm. NRA president, the NRA president. I mean, heck, we used to have, Charlton Heston, not from my cold dead hands, blah, 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 and Carolyn Meadows, I don't know the last time she's actually even held a firearm. And
wow.
That's frustrating to me, I mean, yeah. Craziness.
Definitely.
I need to hold a gun right now just so I don't feel dirty.
I am terrified to pull mine out in my office. So.
Oh, I'm in my man cave, and I've got rifles out the wazoo, and got my reloading bench over here. So I'm in my safe space. Yeah.
Yeah. It's sort of a joke around here. Like, I do this so in my office that I rent. It is my own space. It is not an employer's place. It's my own space. But I lock my door. I have my in-session sign outside. I've got my noisemaker on just in case. And I lock the downstairs door into the building when I think that I can. And I'm like, oh. But I'm like facing a wall of windows, which is really inconvenient.
Oh my gosh.
Anyone could just like stand in the street and like look up and see me. So I'm like, even with all that, I'm like, I don't want to pull it out.
Oh man. Thankfully here in Colorado Springs, we're a little bit more lax. We got 4 major military installations around the area.
Oh, goodness.
Now, if you went 60 miles north to Denver, that's a different dynamic entirely. It's like you stepped out of Colorado and went to Soviet California. It's
Soviet California.
Yeah, I'm being facetious, of course, but it's so weird how those dynamics change from place to place. And honestly, that's something that the NRA should have had a focus on.
Right, absolutely. I mean, the national reciprocity just died.
National Reciprocity Hearing Protection Act.
Right.
I mean, just so many things.
I mean, and
so frustrating.
And there's so many people that are like, okay, well, we need federal laws. We need federal laws. We need federal laws. Like, they could have sort of used that to their advantage and like twisted it a little bit and been like, oh, well, if we have national reciprocity, we can have those federal laws and we can make sure that everyone has to abide by them to, get their license or carry their gun or whatever. Like, they totally could have twisted that to their advantage, and it just sort of like flopped on the floor like a dead fish.
I made the comment that it was kind of like watching a dog chase a car. And when the dog finally caught the car, as in 2016 when we had President Trump, a House of Representatives and the Senate, all red, all pro 2A supposedly. It was like the NRA was the dog chasing the car. We caught the car and they didn't know what to do next.
Yep.
So I made that analogy, and ultimately it comes back to education and training. And the NRA was founded in 1871 by a couple of Union generals that said, "Wow, our Confederate counterparts down there really outshot us, and so maybe we should just have some firearms training and whatnot." Of course, today it's much different, but that sentiment of education should just absolutely be front and center, instead of Wayne LaPierre's wife's hairdresser from Nashville.
Oh goodness,
man,
yep.
it's discouraging, but we have a goal. We have a light at the end of the tunnel. We have NRA members that are finally coming together. And of course, Save the Second, we're a nonprofit organization, but we hope to rally more NRA members. We've got a Facebook group, by the way, that has lots of information or conversations and discussions that you're all welcome to join. I'd love to see you. If you love the Second Amendment and you want to help us reform the NRA, come be a part of the discussion. We're not a membership organization. We're not going to give you a little card with your name on it, the membership number. We're just a group of Second Amendment lovers that really want to see our NRA be strong, relevant, and effective, and without corruption.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that would be the ultimate goal. Absolutely. So I just want to give everyone a heads up here that I apologize. I have not been reading the super chats. The chats do come up in this program that I'm using, but they're all the same color. So I'm going to go and look through those real quick and read some of these off, and I'm sure there's probably some questions for you in there.
I do love questions.
So actually, if people want to send any questions even in the regular chat, we can check those out. And also, real quick, since you mentioned that your group has its own Facebook group and a Facebook page with some discussion, I have recently started my own exclusive Liberty Doll Facebook group, but it is attached to my Patreon, so it is for my patrons only. So if you are a patron that has shut off the email notifications because I go crazy and post like 2 or 3 things at 2 a.m., because that's what I do, then make sure to check out my Facebook page, and there is a little tab on there about View Group, and you can get in that way. So let's see. Trashman4444 says, "Gun haters run and hide. Libertadol has started her ride." Oh, that's cute. John Morey says, me. I'm here too. Well, I'm sorry that I did not read that earlier. Fred Hill says, "Can Massachusetts get any worse on 2A?" Oh, I believe they could. I believe they absolutely could. We are one of the states right now that has an assault weapons ban, and we now have a copycat assault weapons ban that was put out, golly, 2 or 3 years now, where basically our gun laws are decided by our AG, Maura Healey, when she randomly decides in the dead of night what guns are and aren't legal in Massachusetts. And where it is right now is that assault rifles, or any rifle, really, a semi-automatic rifle with a detachable magazine, is considered illegal. But if you have them already, she's going to let us all keep them out of the wonderful kindness of her heart for now. So, I mean, pretty much any, and we have backdoor registration here where it's not supposed to be registered, but there is a list of sale, and that gets sent to the government and all that. So I mean, they could come knocking on doors anytime, so that would make things significantly worse. Jesse Meek is here, dead on leprechaun. Christoph Harper says, "So many people had a fit at Oliver North being president because of his past. He seems like someone who tried to fix it." I mean, it does sound like he made some attempts, and I don't remember if we were live when I said it or if I was just talking to you privately, but I said, there's so many bad actors that it's hard to figure out who is the bad guy in this situation. So I don't know what you think about Oliver North.
Well, okay, so Pete Brownell had been the president before Oliver North. Pete Brownell, of course, owns Brownells, or is a part of Brownells.com. They sell firearms, they sell gunsmithing tools. They're pretty awesome. And so it was really cool to see Pete Brownell become the president of the NRA, and he had reached out to Iraq veteran 8888 and Tim from Military Arms Channel, and just loads of these dudes to get together and make the NRA better, and that failed. He resigned from the presidency, and just a couple months ago, he resigned entirely from the board of directors. So he's one of the 5 this year that have resigned entirely from the board. But after he resigned, Oliver North was, then elected president of the NRA. And my first thought was Iran-Contra. I mean, he was the Marine general that had, done. I mean, you do yourself a favor and go, wiki that, because it's long, right? And so I thought, man, why does the NRA want the Iran-Contra guy as their president? Well, it seems to me now in hindsight that they were looking for a fall guy times 2. I'm like, wow, hey, Oliver North's been a fall guy once before. Why not make it a second time?
Well, I mean, that makes sense. And considering, too, that the presidency is mostly just a figurehead. I mean, it doesn't really do much within the NRA, right? It's mostly like the CEO.
Yeah, and that's a problem. That's a huge problem, a massive problem.
Because then why have one if it doesn't do anything?
Absolutely. The board of directors,
misallocation of resources.
The board of directors is supposed to be over the top of the executives, the guys that oversee day-to-day operations, right? So the board of directors checks on these guys, and if something's going wrong, they boot them and they get somebody else there to do the job. But instead, we've seen Wayne LaPierre, rise above, and now it's almost like he's directing the board of directors. It's scary. And so the president of the board of directors, the president of the NRA, should have a lot more power and than the CEO / vice president of the executives, of course. And,
right.
Oh, that's a huge red flag. I don't know any other nonprofit in the world, or in the United States, of course, that operates like that.
Mm-hmm. Right. So one that I just saw, William Lane here says, how do I find out who my NRA director is?
So, I mean, you've got 76, period. There might be one in your state, but you can go to Save the Second's website under Take Action. We have Contact NRA BOD Board of Directors. When you click on that, I've got a Google spreadsheet with all the names of them. Of course, several have resigned recently. They're kind of struck out and whatnot, but you can read all of that. Those are your directors. Those are the contact information that we've been able to find for them, the relevant contact information.
Okay. And Mandatory Carry asks, does Save the Second have attorneys? He says that someone has an amicus he wants filed, but SPF and GOA aren't replying to their joint email account. So you guys are mostly volunteers, so I don't believe you have attorneys. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. We're entirely volunteer. I've had 2 phone calls with attorneys this past week, and yeah, they're not affiliated with Save the Second. Honestly, I wouldn't even have a good recommendation of who to tell you to. Firearms Policy Coalitions comes first and foremost to my mind for their lawyers, like Adam Kraut, of course, who had been the runner-up and declined a seat on the board of directors just recently. He's a firearms attorney, of course, and now he's working with FPC instead of taking that seat on the NRA board of directors.
Okay. And let's see. This is a really good question, actually, that I hadn't really thought of myself. Rebecca Clark says, how will this mess with the NRA affect the 1639 lawsuit in Washington State? Because they are working with the Second Amendment Foundation. And I'm sure that they have a couple other lawsuits around the country for other gun control. Yeah, interesting.
That is scary. I mean, imagine, of course, if the New York Attorney General or the DC Attorney General, whichever, dissolves the NRA. If they dissolve the NRA, all the work that the NRA is doing, it's gone, right? I mean, the doors are closed.
Right.
Too bad, so sad. California's got one right now that the NRA they're actually doing a really good job on. The state of California has passed a law that requires businesses that would have work done with cities such as like San Francisco and LA to disclose their donations to the NRA, which is a First Amendment violation, right? If I'm doing work for you, I'm not required to tell you who I support politically or anything for that matter. So the NRA is fighting that, and they're doing a good job right now as far as I can see. But yeah, if they close their doors or are dissolved as a result of this malfeasance, well, there goes that.
Right. Yeah. That's a valid point. Um, yeah, I mean, I think, and I wonder too, like how many smaller, so there's a lot of smaller, like local groups that are affiliated, they're NRA affiliates. So, I mean, would those be able to stand on their own feet or?
I would certainly hope so. And that's something that I think has happened more so in the past 10 years than in all of my lifetime. We're starting to see these state organizations really come to the forefront.
Right.
There was the Deerfield, Illinois
Yes.
case where they had banned assault rifles and all that good stuff, and yet that state group was able to knock it out of the park. And that's really cool to me, because where the NRA is unable to fulfill their role in that matter, you can see folks start to pick up that slack, and so I would hope that would continue. I mean, it's the Second Amendment that's at stake, right? So,
Right.
regardless of the NRA is not the Second Amendment. Granted, I want them to fight for and be the champions of the Second Amendment, but still, we need people to fight for that.
Right. Sorry, I just got a text message about what I want for dinner.
Oh, what do you want for dinner?
Let's see. Ooh, you know what? Gluten-free pizza sounds good. Hold on.
When it's Friday too, dude, my kids love pizza on Friday. I'm gonna have to do that here in a little bit.
I mean, and I wasn't feeling well earlier, but I'm feeling better now, so I'll go with the Cape Cod pizza.
All right, Massachusetts. Okay.
Yeah. So a few more of these. Gary Hendricks says that this is my best live stream to date. Well, thank you, and thank you to Ron Carter for helping me reach that.
Dude, I pulled this tie out of the closet today. I'm like, I'm wearing this tie. This is going to be great.
Oh, very nice. There were some comments that I saw in the chat about people trying to figure out who you looked like, and it was decided that you look like Christian Bale. Just so you know.
I'm Batman. I used to get that a lot more when I was running. I was like a marathon trainee guy, and so my cheeks were all sunken, and I could pull that off a lot better back in the day, but maybe not so much today. Thank you though. That's a hell of a compliment. I love it.
So Mr. Rover Pilot says Wayne's book Guns, Crime, and Freedom was outstanding. I haven't read it.
I haven't read that either. Now, one book that I've just started on a little bit was Neil Knox's account. Oh crud! I bought it for my mom, and then she returned it to me after she finished it. And Jeff Knox and Neil Knox were both working in the NRA. They were board of directors through the 70s and 90s, and a lot of that sheds light on where we are today. There was a purge of directors, a revolt in Cincinnati, and there's that's a lot of interesting stuff. Now, LaPierre's book, I'd really like to read it.
Yeah, I mean, I would be curious, certainly, because it's like, okay, I mean, given his actions, we don't really know how much he personally does support freedom and the Second Amendment, I suppose. So it would be interesting to read his book and see what he has slapped down on the page.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I am a little bit disconcerted at the fact that before Wayne LaPierre worked at the NRA, he was a Democrat speechwriter.
I remember that he had something to do with the Democrat Party.
Now, not that Democrats are evil. No, they're not. I've got plenty of friends that are Democrats. I love them dearly. Obviously, that's become the party that's very, well, today at least, they're very anti-gun as a party in general.
Right.
That's not all Democrats, and it's not necessarily telling of Wayne LaPierre's affiliation with any Democratic Party, but that is kind of interesting origins, I think.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Trashman says the DPRC, the Democratic People's Republic of California. Anthony James said to ask you what it was like playing the lead role in Christopher Nolan's Batman films.
Oh my gosh. I would much rather try to play the lead role in like John Wick stuff, because man, I love shooting. If Batman ever had like guns and stuff, dude, Christopher Nolan hit me up.
It goes against his moral code. That's the thing. I mean, he says that he can't kill anyone, though he totally has. There's been like a couple times, but it goes against the code.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan probably would not call me for that, but oh my gosh, that would be so much fun.
Though someone was a little salty in the chat and said more like Will Wheaton. Oh,
Oh, now
oh,
well,
he has me blocked on Twitter. Oh.
oh, yeah. I used to really be a kind of a fan of his, especially back in the day with Picard and Riker, and
Mhm.
oh, sorry, that's a Star Trek Next Generation reference, but
Oh
uh,
no, I know that
oh,
was
okay.
the only Star Trek so I'm a Star Trek fan, but that's the only one that I really watched a lot of that in Discovery, which kind of doesn't count. But I'm excited for the new Picard that's going to be coming out.
Oh man, I really don't want to get that CBS video service, but I think I'm going to have to because both my wife and I are huge Star Trek fans, especially the Next Generation. So,
That's what torrents are for. Oh, did I say that
oh,
out loud?
torrents! Oh my goodness. I mean, I was actually discussing a torrent today with a fellow, and he said, "Torrent? You mean like Napster?" Like that's the last time that he has
Oh,
had
you
associated a
sweet
torrent,
summer child.
right? Oh man, yeah.
Napster was old. Like Napster was around the time of like LimeWire when you would like sit there for like 4 days to download one song and then like your computer would get infested by like weird viruses.
Oh, I know. Oh my gosh.
Oh, I'm dating myself a little
Oh,
bit.
oh no. Okay, so better yet, I'll date myself. I was in high school, trying to download like stuff off LimeWire or Napster and LimeWire so I could like make a CD, and I was gonna, take that CD out and listen to it on my way to go deer hunting. Dude, I was so freaking redneck. You have no clue. Oh man.
That's great. Oh, let's see. So Robin Patty says best Liberty Doll unplugged yet. So that is actually a suggestion that Miss Robin has made to change the show name to Liberty Doll Unplugged or Liberty Unplugged, and I'm kind of feeling it. So I don't know. I'm thinking about it. I just one day was like, oh, I'm doing a live stream. I need to name it something. Liberty Doll's House. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Um, let's see. Oh, Gundanium Dova says, needing prayers, y'all. Nothing bad happened. I just live in Illinois.
Oh man, I'm in Cook County quite a bit, and oh, I feel you there, man.
Oh dear, that
Oh
sounds dangerous.
yeah, it's pretty shady. Now, granted, I reside in Colorado, so I don't have that much experience of that shadiness and stuff. But oh man, Cook County is both wonderful and terrible at the same time. Well,
Yeah.
and Illinois, of course, is entirely influenced by that one county, which is
Yep.
even more of a travesty.
Yep. Yeah, it's not an issue with Illinois or Cook County laws. It's Indiana's fault. It's that one Cabela's right over the border in Indiana.
Of course it is. Yeah, that makes total sense.
I did Now This did a video all about that, and that was one of my more recent videos. Well, it was before the NRA video that I did of debunking their whole video. It was so stupid. Patrick Hall says hello. Daniel Weedall says Liberty Doll and Ron, thoughts on non-violent felons with older charges who have become upstanding citizens. And the window is cut off. Let me see if I can get the rest of it. Regaining their rights.
The only person that I'm aware of that has even had any of their rights restored after being convicted as a felon is Varg Freeborn. Varg Freeborn. Oh, just pull my ears out. Varg Freeborn is now a firearms instructor and whatnot, and literally he's the only person I've ever heard that has been able to accomplish that. For non-violent felons, I just don't understand why they can't have their rights restored.
Right.
What, and for anyone that has gone through the criminal justice system and been served their time, served their punishment, and been reformed, well, heck, they should, in my eyes, have their rights restored.
Right.
Yeah, that's a frustrating one for me. Now, of course, I'm speaking as Ron Carter on that, and not Save the Second. Save the Second, of
Right.
course, is entirely focused on the NRA. But man, I don't know, Liberty Doll. What do you think?
I mean, I agree completely. There are some states, I think Florida has one of them, that you can petition to get certain rights back as a felon. I don't know if it's gun rights, but my view is basically if someone is considered so violent that they are not allowed to defend themselves in a self-defense situation, they have no business being in the community anyways. So if there is someone that we are that worried about having a gun, well then why are they roaming the streets? They shouldn't have been released in the first place.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. I mean, heaven forbid they get a knife. I mean, geez, or gasoline, or
Oh
geez,
no.
there's so many things that we try to regulate that has no bearing, on reality.
Mhm.
Let's go ban some hammers, and
Right.
yeah,
Right. And I mean, in reality, like, okay, yes, firearms are used in a lot of homicides, but I mean, they're always going after, the rifles, the assault rifles that are only used in 1 to 2% of crimes annually. And, the number one weapon is hands and feet, blunt objects.
yeah,
But I mean, you can't go banning someone's, fist.
yeah. We can't legislate morality. We can't.
No,
I mean,
absolutely not.
a murder is a murder.
Right.
Period. That's always a frustrating one for me. But of course, I'm ultra Second Amendment absolutist, and I think everybody should have a gun.
Mhm. No, I agree fully, and it's funny because so around here there's so in Massachusetts there's well, I mean, Massachusetts is a shithole, but there's all these violent cities. There's Springfield, there's Dorchester, there's Brockton, there's Fall River, there's Lynn, the city of sin. There's all these places, and Brockton's like a mini Chicago almost. If you look on Neighborhood Scout, they're actually in the same crime index rating.
Holy
And
smokes!
there was one day that I was driving through, and there was a billboard talking about wanting to ban murder. In Brockton,
I mean,
and it's like, oh
surely
my!
that's like commentary sarcasm, right?
I mean, I would hope, but it's like murder already is illegal. If just
yeah,
banning something would get rid of it, then there wouldn't be murder, there wouldn't be stealing, there wouldn't be Wayne LaPierre dipping out of the nonprofit fund to go buy his suit. We wouldn't be
yeah.
in any of these situations.
Oh man, it's so what a time to be alive, right? I mean, seriously, we're living in probably the safest time that mankind has ever known. I have a
Right.
next door neighbor that's battling cancer, terrible cancer, and
Oh.
she's been alive 18 months longer than what the doctors originally said. I mean, it's
Wow.
right. It's amazing. Heck, she just got home from some of the treatments yesterday, which was rough, but I mean, seriously, there's so much that we have as the human race right now, in terms of safety and security and whatnot, and yet we look at some tragedies and allow it to try to
Mhm.
motivate political legislations.
Right. I mean, and violence has always existed. That's not going to go away. At least not in my lifetime. Not in anyone else's lifetime that's watching this. I mean, unless we get to some like post-philosophical, ethical morality enlightenment or something, violence is always going to exist. It's just in nature, right? So number one, we're not going to get rid of that. But number two, the 24-hour news cycle is, spitting out these things about how, there's been more mass shootings than there has been days in 2019. Well, I mean, really, that's entirely dependent on their definition of mass shootings, which is inherently inhonest, or dishonest all of the time.
Right, absolutely.
No one could come up with a set definition. I mean, and if you look at the numbers, like you said, I mean, it is now the safest time since the 1970s.
Well, especially for violence in the United States,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. So safe. And I'm curious on how they arrive at some of those statistics. Like the mass shootings. Like, are they counting still challenge matches? Are they counting
Right.
USPSA matches? Like, what is
Well,
this mass? Come on, folks.
I mean, I would assume they probably would be because if you look at the numbers for like the school shootings, they count even if the school resource officer accidentally discharges his weapon. They count the gang scuffle down the street that's still technically in the school zone, even though it's happening at 11 o'clock at night. They count all of those things in those statistics.
Yeah, yeah. The justified use of force. What was it? The Oregon, Eugene, Oregon, police officers, police officers that were called to the school. The Antifa guy was going weird, and they got into uh, essentially
a kerfluffle.
Almost a gunfight, nearly a gunfight.
Right.
And I mean, it was justified use of force, but I guess that's a mass shooting, right? So
yeah,
even the justified ones.
Oh, terrible. Trashman44 says the only thing Will Wheaton did right was date Debbie Gibson. The Dirt Boy says to ban sharp toothpicks like the Long Island sandwich kind. And Gundanium Dova says to ban metal scraps and rocks to prevent homemade assault blades.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh.
And a few other comments I had seen. So someone in here, Neil Thornton, says that the NRA has turned into the NAACP for Second Amendment supporters. Wow.
What was it? The irony of, I think you mentioned in your NRA video, the ACLU actually came to the defense of the NRA.
Right.
Like what? Like Twilight Zone stuff here? What's going on? And now, of course, that's like a one instance, but yeah, I don't know. The NRA has gone off the tracks, and I hope to God that we can get it back on the tracks.
Right. There's a lot of people saying that the NRA is supporting red flag laws.
There was a banner that was flying around the NRA annual meeting in Indianapolis that literally a guy like had an airplane with a banner flying around saying, that the NRA was doing just that. And that scares me tremendously. Now, unfortunately, there are states that are going to have red flag laws. There's nothing you or I are going to be able to do about it. In the areas of which it can be prevented, I wish the NRA would just really step up to the plate and just drive it home. No, due process is wonderful. We can have, law enforcement officers go and get a warrant, perhaps even quicker. We can actually file some charges instead of just, willy-nilly confiscating who knows what. And so I wish the NRA would they would fight for that. On the other hand, there are states that will have that. And so you almost have to have that adjudicated in courts to be able to be thrown out, or perhaps influence the wording of those emergency risk protection orders so that it's so stringent that it's not effective.
Right. I mean, and the problem, as you and I were discussing earlier before we went live, is number one, regular restraining orders are abused all the time. So there's no reason to believe that the same wouldn't happen with these extreme risk protection orders and these gun violent restraining orders, number one. Number two, as a mental health worker in the mental health field, I can tell you, we already got those laws. We already have mandated reporting. We already have duty to warn. We already have tear-us-off. So at least, if anyone came into a school, a doctor's office, a therapy office, any of these places, and were showing any violent tendencies where they were, making threats or seemed really violent and not capable of making reasonable decisions or were going to hurt themselves. I mean, that already needs to get reported to the authorities.
Absolutely. Now, I'll see that also, and I'll raise it with this thought. Imagine in Baltimore right now. Baltimore's had this huge clash of law enforcement officers and citizens. It's been crazy. This past week, there was that. Well, I guess that was 2 days ago now. There was an attempted, mass shooting, if you want to call it that. Thankfully, no one got killed. But imagine if tensions are already high with law enforcement officers and the community, and you add people, having ERPOs served on them, going and confiscating people's. I mean, that's just, buddy. That's like sending the match into the tank of gasoline. That's just it's so scary, especially for law enforcement.
Well, and there was that guy, I think was it in Baltimore, the guy that got shot when he was served with one of those orders?
That's right. You're absolutely right. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's just, it's so unnecessary and just so frustrating. I mean, hey, due process is wonderful. Let's do more of that. Let's do it more efficiently, but come on.
I mean, but the thing is you can't even, people are saying, oh, we need those, and then, oh, but we'll make it work with due process because we'll make sure that there's court dates and things like that. But even you can't count, when it comes to guns, you cannot count on due process because let me tell you, up here in Massachusetts, you go to court for anything around your Second Amendment rights and you get laughed out of court, you don't even have a chance. They will look for any excuse to take your rights away from you.
That is so scary. My gosh.
It really is. It really is. There's a law here that if you were found adjudicated delinquent, as a minor, which is if you were found not even guilty, just like adjudicated of any crime as a child that as an adult could be considered a violent crime or could be something that could give you like a year in jail or a year probation or something like that, you are not allowed to have a license, even if it was something that you did as a child. And I know someone who, when they were a kid, got caught with a slingshot, right, which is illegal in the state of Massachusetts, and they are not allowed to have a gun license because of it. And they went to court to try to reopen the case and be like, hey, yeah, I'm training. I want to be a police officer, so I need to get my license to be able to do that. They didn't even let him speak. They didn't let his lawyer speak. They laughed him out, literally. It's awful. Oh, I can't wait to get out of this hellhole.
I'm so speechless on that. A slingshot.
Yep.
Oh my gosh! If they had seen my childhood, they would have been, oh my gosh! If I moved to Massachusetts and they know anything about my childhood, I will be like arrested immediately.
Pepper spray was illegal here up until a couple years ago, and it was Gun Owners Action League actually that helped get that decriminalized.
No joke.
Yep.
That's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Good on them. Well done.
Yep. They're a great local organization.
Now, I don't advocate for pepper spray. In some cases, I've noticed, I've done a little research. Some of those pepper sprays, actually, like the active ingredient is well, at least I think it's wasp spray and bear spray and a little bit of, self-dispense spray is nicotine. And so if I'm spraying somebody, with
really,
yeah, exactly. I think you should go look at it. I don't know. And maybe I'm wrong. I'm not an expert on it. But it seems to me if I'm like spraying somebody that's, like methed out of their mind, they might actually enjoy it. They might ask for more.
Nicotine could definitely make that worse.
Oh, buddy. Yeah. Yeah. So, take it with a grain of salt. I never advocate for somebody just to carry like a non-lethal like that. If it's your only choice, by God, do it. I think a firearm and a little bit of training goes a long way. But hey, if you can use it and it's your only option, by all means,
right,
stay in the fight.
Yeah, I can't advocate for anyone to get a gun license in Massachusetts without them wanting to burn me at the stake. So,
really?
Yeah, so like I have a lot of kiddos that are clients that are going off to like their first year of college and things like that. And I'm like, oh, well, get some wasp spray in your purse or something,
Yeah, that's always scary. Who is it? Antonia Okafor has done the Empowered. What's the name of her nonprofit? I think it's Empowered, and she's trying to train females, college age females, to carry, and I think that's the coolest thing in the world.
And I think she's one of the ones that got kicked off the YouTube Partner Program.
No way.
I believe it is. I believe that's her.
I got to hear her speak. There was a Rally for Our Rights rally in Denver at the Capitol back, I think it was in May, and I got to hear her speak. And I'm like, dang, I like what she's saying, and her movement, to try and get females to carry. Yes, absolutely. That firearm is the best equalizer that there's ever been, especially for a female.
Absolutely.
But then again, of course, I think that everybody should be able to carry because, hey, the defense of your life and the life of your loved ones, especially if you're facing a deadly threat, that's pretty convenient to have,
Right. Trashman says, never trust your life to a can of spice. Man, he's full of them tonight. Keep going, man. Put that on a Hallmark card. All right. So, all right, and that was the last one that came through. So it's 8:35. I don't want to keep you any longer because I'm sure that you have things to do. Um, and I do not have D&D tonight. Actually, D&D is stopped for the time being because one of the members of D&D is having a baby, so no more D&D for a while. So I'm also toying with maybe having these a little bit later to, make it easier for everybody to get on. So that's what's going on with that. So again, check out the links down in the description. We have a link there for Save the Second. We have a link for USCCA. So Ron, want to just give a last few sentence thing about how people can help change the NRA?
Absolutely. We need NRA members to join us, to help us in trying to contact the board of directors, sign bylaw amendment petitions, and definitely attend the meetings that you can, such as the NRA annual meeting, members meeting that's coming up next year in Nashville. Thank you so much for the support. You can get involved in many different ways on our website, of course, savethe2a.org. Thank you so much, Liberty Doll. I've so much enjoyed everything that you've done, and I'm a little like just struck at seeing somebody and conversing with somebody that I've looked up to, you. And so thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been just an honor.
I still think it's weird that people watch my channel.
Oh my gosh, dude, okay, so after you were on the We Like Shooting show, I'm like, oh, I got to check this out. And so I periodically watch your shows, which of course, that's why I saw the NRA show that you did, which is just awesome. You're such, you do your job at investigation, and you are able to articulate your findings in such a way that I'm jealous. I really am.
Oh, thank you. I put a lot of time into it.
Oh, that's obvious. That is absolutely obvious. You do a wonderful job.
All right. Well, thanks for watching then. And thanks for coming on the show, for telling everybody about the work that you guys are doing and how they can help out and how they can hopefully make some changes while also keeping the NRA going. Yes. So, yes, fingers crossed, right?
Absolutely.
So, again, everyone, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. You're going to want to ring the notification bell, or else YouTube will never, ever tell you when new content exists, because it doesn't like me because I talk about boomsticks.
Oh, speaking of boomsticks, if we're closing out, I got to grab a boomstick.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes. This is, oh, yes. Boomsticks are wonderful. Empty and clear, praise God, amen. My boomstick. Obviously, Bloomberg, right? Hashtag Bloomberg. Oh, yes.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Bloomberg totally paid for that. Absolutely.
Oh, hey, by the way, if Bloomberg ever gives us a freaking cent, we're going to shove it right back in their face, and that goes for any of the anti groups, that are out there. We love the Second Amendment. We do not stand with them. And if they want to give us money, it's going right back to them or to some pro-Second Amendment foundation. Yes.
And last one just came through the Gun Guy show. Let's see. He's a Second Amendment attorney in Indiana that might come on the show. Cool. All right. Ooh. Yeah, guys, anyone who's watching, if you know anyone or know of anyone that you would like to come on the show, I'm going to try to make these interviews a more common thing. So, sorry, that's my ringtone. So yeah, anyone that you want to pass my way, absolutely. I'll check them out and see if we can get them on. All right, guys, so I usually end this with a thanks for letting me spread the message of liberty thing, but since this one is Second Amendment related, we'll go with the Second Amendment slogan of thanks for watching, stay safe, and happy shooting. Good night.
Take care.